Yo, what's up, people? It's the solarkidd, and we are back on another Other Side of the Sun podcast, show where I talk about a journey of self-discovery through people and their stories. And today I've got a very special guest all the way from South Africa, and her name is Ninel Musson. Wagwan, how you doing, sis? You good?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks, Keenan. Thanks for having me on your chat.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And Ninel is I'd say an African music exec, you know. She's the co-founder of creative entertainment marketing agency Fifth Season. She's also founder of, is it Moziak Africa magazine?
Moziak Africa, yeah.
Moziak, yeah. So a woman of many talents. And I'm going to be picking her brain today about her story and her journey. So welcome to the show, Ninel. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule for me.
I'm glad to chat. It's always nice to catch up with old friends and, yeah, ask me anything you like.
Yeah, so I think the first question I'd like to ask is like, I didn't actually realize you were even into music and all this type of stuff when we met. I thought you were just very business focused, business minded, you know, very academic, you know, coming from that side. So like, yeah, fill in the gaps. Like, how did you actually, yeah.
Well, that's all true. That's true. I was just business, and I was like, I did a lot of school. I did a lot of studying. I did varsity and then honors and then back to business school. So you're right. I think you do know me as that person, and I am that business person. And I just think that I combined that with music because I was just around a lot of artists. I think, you know, I landed at Wits University and I was studying like, you know, finance or whatever, but I also got involved with like Wits Radio. You know, and I was just always around either people that were DJing or people that were trying to host events or rappers. There was just a lot of, you know, around me. And I think probably I just started being in that space long enough to be able to understand, you know, what was missing.
They needed you.
Well, I mean, like if I think about you, didn't you used to make beats?
And yeah, like, I still do. I'm a producer, engineer, you know.
Exactly. So even back then, you could have been like, you know, a producer, and we could be listening to stuff, and somebody may write on it or whatever. And then what would happen? You know, would you have access to a label? Would you have, you know everything that you need to do about promo for the single? What about getting it onto radio? So like there were a few steps that I think weren't clear to a lot of like young people.
Yeah, we had literally no idea. I mean, like I tried starting a label and like doing all the business stuff myself, but I mean, when you're creative, you don't really want to be doing all those things, and you don't really want to think about those things as well, you know.
So I believe that too. I believe that, you know, that you should focus on your creativity, getting better at what you do. And then you should have a selection of people around you that you can choose to work on some of the other aspects for you, the business aspects, the distribution of music, the marketing of music, working with brands, trying to figure out how you can get it funded with licensing or publishers and so forth.
But would you say, I mean, like that's almost like 20 years ago now. Like I'm pretty sure the landscape has changed from when I was alive too, trying to do my thing.
That's true. I think the music landscape has changed in South Africa, especially. And I think it keeps changing globally. You know, there's just so many things that are happening because of technology, and I think just, you know, globalization and everything. And there's an interest in doing business on the continent now more than ever before. So every distributor will launch here now and provide a new opportunity for a new African artist to distribute their music everywhere. But in the sense, what we do as Fifth Season, as a management company or label services, as an indie label, is still needed. There's still a space for that, just like there was 20 years ago. I mean, we were event promoters, you know, used to come to my shows at the club, and The DJs and the artists that we were booking for little shows didn't have teams. They didn't have a professional management agent. They had a couple of buddies that may have been driving them around or getting them to the show or hooking up the equipment or carrying the decks, but it wasn't from a management experience or something. It wasn't somebody that came from the music industry and said, I know how all this stuff works. I know where we're now. I know in 12 months what we're going to be billing for your set is. There wasn't that kind of coordination and level yet. So that's pretty much the role that we took up for a lot of DJs at the time. And this is 15 years ago. Because we realized how important the music was to all of the shows that we were doing. And we realized how necessary, we could have an impact. As soon as we started putting the DJs on, and then we started getting them bigger shows, and then we started getting them shows outside of Joburg, in Durban and Cape Town. And then we started doing shows with a TV partner like MTV. And, they were kind of blowing up. And it was because of some of this, strategic marketing. And so we kind of just bundled that up and we created the fifth season, which is a talent management agency. And exactly because there weren't that many record labels interested in signing South African artists, especially in urban genres like hip hop at the time, that's how we also started the record label.
Oh, wow.
So it's been 11 years going.
Yeah, man, I feel like we were, because I was speaking to Pinks, to Mitchin the other day, and we were both saying we were maybe about 7-8 years premature,
Yeah.
Literally, because we didn't. I mean, we were trying. We had good concepts, good ideas, even strategies. We did marketing plans, business plans. We hosted one of the biggest hip hop events in Bosmont, at the stadium there. We had all the artists and stuff, but we just never had the back. We didn't even have the internet back then. We didn't even have Facebook or Instagram to kind of promote our events and stuff. And it was well attended, but just that little bit of business, nous, I'd say. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Know-how, you say, someone like yourself that come in and be because we did all the groundwork anyway. Between us, we managed to do quite a good job. But we just needed someone to come in and say, oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, cool. This is how you actually align this and make a proper marketing strategy, and then talk to people and email people and be okay, this is my people, I represent them, and speak on that kind of. I know all this now because I've been in the music industry for over 15 years or so in England and stuff, and I've had to kind of manage myself and learn along the way. But it's so good that you've provided that platform now, so that younger people can find their ways in. Because like you said, there was no before. They even had to have. I remember what was it to play more local music, because we were so Americanized and so listening to international.
There wasn't a demand for a lot of local live acts, especially in hip hop on stage. And so, I definitely agree with you. If you knew everything you know now back then, things would have been very different. And the problem,
do you think because there wasn't as much exposure, there wasn't as much opportunities, or?
If I think about what Mitchin and them were doing with the whole scratch beats thing, and I still, I still have. I found T-shirts the other day that was their merch. There was a lot of stuff that you guys were doing 20 years ago that are still relevant now. But the problem is even if you have that talent, even if you're doing those things and you're starting to see exciting things happen, filling up, Bosma Stadium, you give up if it doesn't eventually catch, right? You give up on your creative dreams and you go and you get a job. And then, because it's difficult, there's just so many challenges. That still happens today, even if you do have a record label and you have a deal and you have, so it's even more difficult. And there's so many more artists that I think gave up back then because it was just so challenging. Yeah.
So, just slightly off topic, or actually on topic, what was your childhood like? What were you growing up? Were you, I don't know, you seem like you could have been quite bossy. How were you as a kid?
No, not at all. I actually was a very, very quiet child. I never got into trouble. I never...
You go to that school next to the German school. What is it called?
No, I went to German school. I went to Deutsche
you went to
Schule.
German school.
Yeah, in Cape Town where I grew up, and then also in Joburg when we moved up here.
Was there a German school in Cape Town as well?
Yeah, tiny one.
Okay. How come? Like, what's your affiliation? Was it just
it was just a good private school at the time. Yeah, it was just a good school, and if you did well, you could apply for a bursary and a scholarship, and so both me and my sister went on scholarships.
Because I
wasn't bursary or authoritative at all. That came later with adulthood.
No, because how we got in. I mean, I remember they chose a few people from our schools, and then like Rafik and Jeremy, and they all got chosen to go to Deutsche Schule.
Exactly, yeah.
I remember I was upset because my teacher didn't put me forward because I was too mouthy in class. I was always a know-it-all, so she was like, "You're not going to that." But yeah, I mean, what was it like? Where did you grow up? Greenside. Did you live in Greenside or?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you would have been at my parents' house in Greenside. That was just like, after we moved here. I mean, I grew up in Cape Town.
Okay. When did you come over from Cape Town?
I was like already almost done with high school. So I pretty much just finished off high school and went to varsity, yeah.
Oh, I see. Whereabouts in Cape Town did you live then?
In Athlone, in Crawford.
Okay, so you're from the flats, original gangsters.
Yeah, I grew up there for, really most of my entire childhood and most of my teenage years.
I didn't actually know that. I don't know. Maybe that's obviously why that connects the pieces now. Like, how come I didn't really know you growing up as much like later on?
No, I didn't grow up. I really only got to spend time with Vicky and them when we moved here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So that's a little bit on your part. So obviously being a woman in a pretty male-dominated society, industry and world for that matter. How has it been sort of navigating your way through the South African music industry? Because obviously, your record speaks for itself, and where your company is, and the amount of recognition your artists are getting. You've obviously done well, but what was it like? I mean, you've obviously had to tackle, first of all, the changing climate of the politics in the country, the economy, and all of that, and then also the old states, the elder statespeople of the industry. I think when I spoke to, on the comedy side, and when I spoke to Jason, he said there were these elder statesmen who were, for years, they were like the comedy people of South Africa. And the same for music, you know what I mean? So what was it like kind of navigating all of this and getting to...
Yeah, the same in comedy would apply to music for sure, if not more of an infrastructure that was already there. And, people still speak about the gatekeepers in music that, control who really gets the big share of media and that kind of thing. I think for me, I definitely can say that it was tough. I think it's definitely been a hard journey as a music entrepreneur. I mean, entrepreneurship is always challenging. I mean, it's literally a roller coaster of start thing, work on it, go back to the drawing board, come up with something else that starts working, figure out who to work with. It's just, it's a very difficult road to navigate. And I think the only way I managed to do it was just taking it bit by bit. I don't think I don't think I ever stopped or let anything really, really, really stop us from the goal. We just did it bit by bit. We've built the company without any big funding or big investors that came through. We bootstrapped it and did it bit by bit as we could. And I think we were just, prudent. One thing led to another. We took bets, which we thought were safe bets, on really artists that we thought were super talented and that we felt other people would want to listen to because we thought they were so good. And I think, with AKA and Trésor, we were right. There was demand for that kind of music, even if we had to create the demand at the time. And I think the other thing that we did was we partnered a lot. If we had the opportunity to have a good synergy with a Sony or with other independent distributors like Afrika or Platoon. We've done that too. So we created the space for, I guess, what we do best, which is music management and marketing. We created good relationships with the artists. So, people want to work with us. And then I guess we just, you never really plan for the awards and the recognition because you don't know. For all those reasons you just mentioned, there's politics, there's favoritism, but you can plan for putting out a good, solid promo plan, putting out a good record, working with good people, hiring good people in that can help you. I don't know. Doesn't
So
seem now, but that's pretty much how we put it together. What were you saying?
Is there any like one specific instance that you can remember that was really tough where your gender or your color or anything affected sort of, your progression?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even speak about that. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I have never been, it's probably very recently, and I would say in the last 2-3 years where people have really acknowledged like what I do or the role that I play. And maybe I've been too low key about it. But remember, I was in the club. I was the girl at the club that was stamping your arm. So you thought I was the hostess, right? But it was actually my business. I was throwing the show, I was booking the venue, I was putting the money down for the DJs and the technical and the printing the flyers and distributing the flyers. So I suppose I probably played a very low-key role. And where that didn't serve me well was when I needed to get into a boardroom and have a meeting and try to negotiate something or try to get, some funding for a partnership or a license deal. I think there it just completely took away, what I'd already done or accomplished and kind of wiped it out. And I was probably just seen, I think a lot of the time, as the assistant or the person that was going to be taking notes and then reporting back after the meeting on what everybody else needs to do. And I think I probably didn't get angry enough about it in those instances at the time. It probably just sat with me on the inside until I could eventually start speaking about it more and start also dealing with more women in the room, like from those labels, those bigger labels, and dealing with, other people sharing their experiences where I could say, yeah, you're right. I didn't have much authority or in that meeting. And maybe that's why I'm bossy. You started off by asking me if I was always maybe this is how it kind of like developed. Yeah.
No, but I think what I mean by that is like you seem like there's an air of confidence, which could come across as bossy or whatever. But I mean, it's something that's important in the business world to not come across as just like, someone who's taking the notes. And there's an air that people have about them when they're in certain like positions. So like what advice would you give a young girl who's, that may be faced with those types of situations, or what can they do? How can people like sort of improve themselves or work on in order to be better in those situations? Or what would you have done better?
Yeah. Well, if I am displaying confidence right now, I know where it comes from. So if I'm in the room and you're talking about planning an event or a tour, I've done 100 of them. Quite literally, I've done 100 events or more. And so if we're discussing that, I can tell you about it. If we're speaking about releasing a new album, I've done at least 50 of them. So, that's where that experience comes from. I really do know. And I know that I know by now because I've seen it working out. But other than that, I think it comes from my experience, not because anybody else has told me that I'm good at it and sort of patted me on the back or anything like that. It's really from within, and it happened over many, 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 exercises. And I think the advice that I would give to anybody starting out or trying to do this is to actually just start, even if it's in a small way, the way that we all did. I think a lot of people still look at people that are new and say, question, did you pay your dues? It's one of those things that still happens for a new publicist coming in or a new event promoter, that kind of thing, new record label. They want to see the track record. So you have to be convinced that you have what it takes and you've done enough of it to actually crack it, to break it.
It's like keeping your head down and earn your stripes kind of vibe. Yeah. Those stripes, yeah.
there's no school. I mean, I know they have courses in entrepreneurship now, and you can do a lot of online stuff and courses. So cool. But then what about music? I mean, there's now some business. I think there's a music MBA that I saw recently. But a lot of this, of how we get stuff done, is by doing it once, making a mistake or not doing it completely right, and then getting it right after that. Or it comes from relationships. You know, if you can pick up a phone from somebody that's in the same boat or on the other side, and get something done. Whether it's brands or license partners or anything like that, you need a bit of a network to get it done, and that only happens like over time by being in the space.
Okay. Yeah, that's some really good information, especially for young people trying to get into the industry. Something that struck me and something I was really quite impressed by your company is the fact that you cover Africa, and this is something that I've always been passionate. I've always been Pan-Africanist, like even before I left the country. I mean, I was a very I started as a performance poet, so I was very deep and introspective, and Steve Biko and all that type of stuff. That's slight background on me. But what I'm trying to say is because I haven't lived in South Africa for so long, when you're looking back from the outside in, over here, I'm considered part of the diaspora, so I've connected with people from all over Africa and people from all over the diaspora. But when I was younger in South Africa, I couldn't see past the borders. As Pan-Africanist as I was in my mind, I didn't realize if I wanted to, I could just take a bus and go to Swaziland or go to Tanzania or something and go and explore on my own, Yeah. And that's sort of because of how we were schooled and, our upbringing and, the colonial mentalities and all those types of things. The question I'm asking is how did you manage to sort of expand and take that approach to your business into Africa as well? Because more and more people need to obviously see the value in this.
Yeah. I mean, I think potentially it was shaped or kicked off by maybe the home that I grew up in. I think my parents were very involved in politics and, the liberation struggle. And so people walking in and out of our house were either activists or community leaders. And my parents traveled a lot. So my parents would tell us about Swaziland and Zambia and things like that. And even when I was a little bit older for work, my mother was, she worked for a university and she would go to conferences in Nigeria and things like that. So I probably took a little bit of, my mind was probably open. And the minute that I could find work that allowed me to travel, I took it up. I wanted to see what Uganda looked like. I've spent time in Kenya. I've spent, Rwanda, Nigeria. I really, 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 really had an intentional, I wanted to see. And I wanted to meet people from there and speak to them and see how we could do things on the ground. And I think I paired that then with my business partner, who is, I suppose he was also African diaspora at some point in the US, but he's West African. And so between the two of us, there was never any question about when we were thinking about where we wanted to do business. Yeah, okay, we're based in Joburg right now, the office, and we can live here, but it was never ever a limitation for us. And I think we've worked with artists that have, even if they're based here, their heritage is, parents are Congolese or Zimbabwe or whatever it is. And I think this whole mixing pot just makes us always want to think about what can we do on the continent? Where's our business on the continent? What is our company? It's African. I just happen to be speaking to you from Joburg. That's it.
No, I'm a massive advocate for that, because I'm involved in quite a few community organizations and people around here that are very Afrocentric. And even my music, the music that I'm trying to be involved in, is all Afrocentric, you know what I mean? Whether it be house or hip hop or whatever, dance, pop, whatever. But now, Africa is hot right now, man. I got so many Americans and stuff over here, and people, they all want to visit Ghana. Everybody's going to Ghana in the summertime, Nigeria, it's popping out there, you know what I mean? And it's good because it's in London, what happened was years ago, there was kind of a slight divide between the Caribbeans and the Africans. And now they've created this whole new sound, which encompasses both, you know, this kind of London Afro swing kind of thing. And it's just taking over the world. And I'm loving it because it's just taking everything back to Africa, man. So, yeah, the question I was going to say was like, what's popping in SA right now? What's good? What's music saying? Like, how's it? What's good?
The only thing that South Africans want to listen to right now is Amapiano, and it seems to be the genre that all the Amapiano artists are getting booked in your town.
That's what I was gonna say. Yo, Amapiano's popping here, man. People are asking me, "Can you make Amapiano?" I was like, "Well, I'm not even up to speed on what's going on in Amapiano right now."
Yeah, that's definitely the hot genre. The requests we're getting for, you know, if it's not an artist trying to do an Amapiano remix, and I'm talking everybody from hot young UK artists that used to do Afrobeat that now want to convert to Amapiano. I guess it started happening a couple of years ago already, and now it's kind of peaking. To even just, you know, in the US, they want to get a beat or a producer from here that can do Amapiano just like to your request. So no, there's never been, if you look at the radio charts now, yesterday I was in the car at 9:30. If you turn on the radio, it's playing Amapiano. So it's the most pervasive genre that's sweeping across radio. You know, Spotify is doing multiple playlists that focus on that genre. When we get requests for international interviews, even the UK publications, when they look at something interesting that they want to shoot with the South African artists, now it's focused on that. So
that's cool.
The number one genre right now.
Yeah, that is so cool, because obviously before, like, South Africa was always known for its house music. Like, even, you know, back then, everyone was like, yo, South African house and DJs and whatever. And obviously Black Coffee blowing up. And
yeah.
I'm saying it's Amapiano. I need to get on some Amapiano stuff.
I need to send you some links. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then I think, you know, it could help put a spotlight on all of those as well. And in general, South African music in general, what other African artists are good. You know, it should be good all around. And I think it's, like I said, it's about time.
And in terms of like COVID and the rioting and all that, what's going on? Is it what's the country like at the moment? What's the vibe?
Yeah, I think we still are dealing with high numbers. We're on a middle level of lockdown, so it's not really severe. There are still restrictions in place, curfew in place. Vaccines are here. They're being rolled out relatively slowly. I think we're now at quite a young gap now, over 18, so anybody can sort of access it if they want to. I think we have some vaccine hesitancy, just like the rest of the world. And I'm personally just waiting for that percentage vaccinated to go up so that we can ease restrictions and we can get back to shows and live events and big festivals and getting back to touring. I think South African artists have had a really difficult time because they've been stuck in this lockdown for beyond what I think anybody expected and could make work, you know, financially. So those that are in demand are lucky enough to take up opportunities in East Africa or Ghana or places where there were less restrictions at the time, or now like the UK where a lot of them are on tour. But yeah, if you haven't been like a super in demand live artist, then sure, it's been difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's been hard for anyone at grassroots. I mean, even just local businesses and small businesses. I mean, the amount of businesses that have been closed, and I mean, like, we've been out of lockdown for like a month or so now, and it's been good, man. Just to do stuff with no masks, and, you know, I mean, obviously it's optional, but yeah, I can imagine what it must be like for like, especially artists that are, you know, developing or just started out. I mean, I know some, because I produce, so like I work with bands and stuff, and like there's been some bands who have just kind of come out, but then didn't get to come out because it's like they were just like literally before lockdown started, they were like planning their tour for the summer, which is, you know, June and that year, and the album releases, and they just had to take so it's been hard for a lot of people.
Hard time for our industry. I think, I mean, I don't know. Are you able to do like sessions? Are you doing a lot of sessions like in studio?
Yeah. I mean, we've actually been able to do that. Not all the way through, but more or less. I mean, I was still running sessions last year in lockdown, but it was kind of like you only allowed 1 or 2 people in the studio. I had to like sanitize everything,
Yeah.
We've been running sessions. Everything. I mean, there's been big festivals in the last couple of weeks and stuff. People have been going festivals. I've been to a few things, and it's pretty much almost back to normal. I mean, Carnival was cancelled, which was sad, but because that's like probably.
Yeah, no, I saw thousands of people at that Yam Carnival on the weekend and O2, and wow, we have nothing like that to talk about here. We're jealous that it's happening.
Yam Carnival was sick though. I wanted to go to that.
Gosh, yeah, I can't even imagine being among so many people after the last 18 months. But
yeah, that's the thing. You need to hit me up when you come to London, man.
I will.
Definitely.
As soon as we are off this radio.
As soon as we're off the thing, I wanted to ask you also, where do you see South Africa in the future, like in the next 20 years? Like, what do you predict? Like, do you have a very positive outlook, or like what are you thinking?
I'm always going to have a positive outlook. This is where I'm from. This is my country. This is where all of my family and my people are. I think that there's a lot of space for young people, including myself, to get more involved in certain changes that I think need to happen. I think this has been an eye-opening, this lockdown and COVID situation for many countries, especially developing countries, has really put it's just put everything out there. And I think we have a tendency to be overcritical as South Africans. They say, it's our culture to criticize and make fun of things and quickly expose things. But I think that's good. But I also think there's, especially like you mentioned, the riots, a lot of people after that, spoke about, what can I do to solve things like youth unemployment? Our media articles this week said that we have the highest rate of employment, and, it's like 37% officially from what they've counted. That's unemployment, yeah. And so you can imagine that youth unemployment is even higher because, there'd be a skills gap. And so we really have to think differently about not going to universities necessarily, but creating workplace training. We have to figure out how we can place people, how we can do very quick skills training. There's so many opportunities. And I think that I also see some opportunities in our industry of how to get more young people in. We have to get people working. Without that, you're never ever going to solve, crime. We're never going to solve so many things that, are also like affecting a lot of people. So I felt quite inspired recently to try to figure out what I can do outside of business, outside of anything like that, just to try to figure out what programs, even in my small way, if I can work on something that over a period of a year employs 50 people or 100 people, that would be significant for a bunch of families, and I should try to do that. Definitely. I'm still thinking, and I mustn't procrastinate, I know, but I have to be optimistic about where we're headed and the space for me to still create some change.
No, definitely. And I'm glad there's people like you out there. And I mean, there's many people sort of like in our age group and circles, especially in South Africa, that I know of, who are in highly influential positions now, and sort of the mantle has been passed over to us to take those roles up and to take up those opportunities and responsibility for the youth, because maybe our parents, our parents were still like in apartheid, you know what I'm saying? So like, it's up to us now to basically use, the freedom that we have and whatever. And obviously for people like me of the diaspora now, giving back and, looking back to Africa as well, to kind of, keep sending back the skills and initiatives and to build these things for the future to grow. Because I've always seen a positive future. And like, I mean, I wrote a poem years ago of how I saw Africa uniting and, people starting to work together and using our resources and talents to kind of, be a superpower within the world and in the future as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad we can have this conversation and still end on a positive note, because, I mean, there's a lot to criticize and there's a lot that everybody is, complaining about. But
you have to go through pain, in order to get to the joy as well, I mean, you have to go low before you come up again. So just again on the music thing, I wanted to ask, like, I mean, something that's always kind of, I mean, even in the UK, it's a thing, like, for an artist, like, especially because of the changing landscape of how music is consumed. How do you manage to get artists to make a living, because people are not really buying. I mean, like, it's never been a culture of buying music, I remember back home, whereas over here there was always the culture of buying music, but now it's changed to subscription based, Spotify, iTunes and stuff. Is it quite big over there? How are people making money? I mean, obviously with no tours, no merch. Well, I suppose they can still sell merch and stuff, but there's no tours. Like, how are artists making a living?
They are struggling to. Digital music sales is a very, 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 turnover on there is really small.
Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah.
For a developing
here is like $4,000 or something.
Yeah. No, it's low for a developing act. If you're a major act, you can maybe rely on it a little bit more. And I remember in South Africa, there was supposed to be grants, unlike many other European countries that have supported artists and event companies and labels with some government money and support. There's been barely any of that on the continent. So it's definitely been very difficult. You've had to think really out of the box about your music career, right? So if you could get a brand campaign, if you could do activations with some kind of commercial brand, if you could be part of a marketing campaign, if you could use your social media, if you could create your own shows, we're doing a lot of that now because we are, we have a couple of artists on the roster, so we can put together a show and we can just try to run it ourselves, and we can be the infrastructure for that instead of waiting for, event coordinators and venues are suffering with now having opened and trying to keep costs low so that they can recoup the last couple of months of being closed. So it's still we're not there yet. We're half open with limited shows, and it's really put a lot of pressure on artists to earn a living. It's been the most difficult 18 months for artists in South Africa.
No, I can imagine, and even worldwide. So I mean, like, before that, then, say before lockdown, was it like, how were people making their money? Was it more sort of like brand partnerships and stuff and licensing, or so it wasn't digital music sales at all, obviously?
No, it would still be, digital music sales and, other royalties like even publishing would be part of maybe your monthly turnover. But the biggest portion would be live and touring, live shows, bookings and tourings, between 65 to 90% of an artist's revenue, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was pretty much the same in the West as well, even for major, big artists, that's why it was all these reunion tours and, like all these mergers and all this stuff going on.
But even so, I've seen, the number of people that have announced that they're selling their catalogs, major artists, also could be part of that. Because
Bob Dylan's all his catalog. I mean, and like all these other people buying up.
Donna, I saw last week. I'm sure there's many reasons, and it's not just one thing, but
money, baby.
You've got an asset. You haven't been on the road for a year and a half,
Yeah, why not sell it, man? I mean, think about it. If my catalog was worth like $500 million, I'd sell it, because like I probably wouldn't live long enough to enjoy that money anyway. So I'll take the $500 million and you can have the catalog and do what you want to with it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, for that number.
Okay. What else did I want to say? So are you spiritual at all? Are you religious or anything?
No, I wouldn't say that I follow a main religion, not in the way that I think many people around me do. Spiritual, as in believe in the universe, certain things happening for a reason, believing in things bigger than myself, yes.
Okay, just 1 second. Where were we? Oh yeah, you was telling me about your spirituality. Yeah.
No, that's it. That's all I have to say about it.
Okay, so do you not believe in like being or anything, or do you do yoga? Do you do any of that type of stuff?
I do actually do some yoga. I think I believe in things that are bigger than me. I believe in many of the principles of some of the main religions, but I, for example, don't go to church except when it's, big family occasion where I'm going for different reasons, usually to support my family or to enjoy a Christmas.
Yeah.
My mom is quite religious from that point of view, and my dad is not. So I have both sides.
Okay, that's nice. I mean, it's good that you
Are you?
No, I call myself spiritual. So like because I'm really into like philosophy and history. I spent years reading and reading and reading. So I've read like Bible, I've read like Quran and like loads of religious texts. And I've been into like ancient Hindu scriptures like the Mahabharata and
Oh,
South American culture. Like I'm fascinated by it. So for me, it's like it's all the same thing. It's human history. It's a part of our collective human history, and I don't really differentiate between it as such because it's people's interpretation of what could possibly be the same thing, and then people man distorts shit. You know what I mean? The minute someone puts something on paper, for me, it becomes subjective. So as long as you've got an idea, and like you said, the main principles of the major religions or the Abrahamic faiths, love and respect your neighbor, blah blah blah, that type of shit, kind of, it's universal. You know what I mean? So
100%.
I've practiced yoga for a long time. Like I wanted to actually teach at one point, but like I do my own practice, and I've done like loads of other type of martial art disciplines, capoeira, and so I'm into all that type of shit, like boxing, kickboxing, and like, I have my own kind of spiritual practice, if and I do still, if someone sends me a Bible verse, I'll kind of read it and then see what I can take from it. Or if someone sends me a positive quote or whatever, do you know what I mean? I like try and find, so that's me, like, I'd say I'm a very spiritual person. I can go to a church, I can go to a mosque, whatever, I don't really judge in that sense because
I think that's the best way. And I think I definitely resonate with that too. I mean, I think especially because, I have a Muslim family, I have Christian family.
Same with all of us, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I don't take offense when somebody sends me, people are always sending verses. They're sending it out as like inspiration or something.
Exactly.
Then I can usually take something from it without getting like, don't.
It's generally only when people say you must or you have to, or if you don't do this,
dramatic.
Yeah, that's when I start becoming a bit like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like literally, I honestly, I don't mind anyone's philosophy or faith or religion as long as they don't force it on me or tell me that I'm gonna go to hell. Or you can even believe it. I don't care if you think that way. That's fine, but don't like impose on me. You know what I mean? That's my kind of thing. So yeah.
Totally.
A few more little points. I want to just delve a bit into kind of so how do you feel, or like what is your experience being colored in South Africa? Because obviously we are still quite marginalized, and like what's your view of the whole colored thing? Because obviously, like you said, your parents were obviously very open-minded. Same with my parents, you know what I mean? And that's why they've never really taught me to see color in that way, even though it's very apparent in our communities and whatever and stuff. But yeah, so what's your experience of colored, and for international viewers, mixed race South African people? It's not derogatory, please. So yeah, in South Africa, that's what we called. It actually was in our passports at one point.
Yeah, there is a legal definition, ethical definition for it, I guess, in South Africa anyway.
But in England and in America, it's
totally.
Yeah,
it's hard to explain actually. I think same as your parents, because my parents were so political. I think we were African growing up. I think I still have arguments with my dad when he has to tick a box, or when people speak about race, because he'll send you all sorts of quotes from this scientifically. My dad was a science teacher as well.
Wow.
There's only one human race, and so biologically you can look at it like this, and there's really no scientific definition for race.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely part of my thinking, but I think also in like real life, it's easier to be part of a group and be part of a tribe. That's also human nature. And I think that's probably something that, any marginalized group of people in any part of the world would struggle with. I think I am also added to that weird because I think I probably have quite a unique background. And then I've also lived and worked in other places. And I think the most common feedback that I get from anyone is people wondering what my background and my heritage actually is. And sometimes it's quite entertaining to play that game and to make a little mystery out of it. But actually it is quite tiresome of always having to explain where you're from, because it feels like you're justifying who you are if you think about it quite deeply. And no one wants to do that on a day-to-day. And I think that's just some of the unique challenges that people deal with. And I think, the other things that we have to think about also structurally when it comes to the role in South Africa, because I think that's also a whole other thing. I think in entertainment, there's also certain assumptions that are made about, if you just think about performers or artists and things like that. When I think back, even just quite literally, with an artist like AKA in the beginning, because he was rapping and writing not in Vernac, it was English. That was also, something that I think people at the time weren't sure how would that go down in SA hip hop, So yeah, there's definitely a lot to discuss when it comes to that. I think my personal view obviously isn't everyone's, and I think I haven't tried to think about it too much. If I was doing something, if I was in a room, I was there and I was getting shit done. And
I think that's a key trait, because I used to just think a lot about race and who you are and where you come from. But once it actually took me coming to England to just stop being Keenan instead of being Keenan, that colored guy from Bosman, to talks with that accent and he sounds like this and whatever. And literally it took me a while. And like you say, once you start doing that and just being you and other people, treating other people as people and getting on with the work, you start to progress more and to find more avenues and meet more people and grow, and your circle of friends is not restricted to only certain types. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And especially because even for me personally, I've always been into a wild variety of music. I'm not only into, I've listened to rock, I've been into metal at some point, I've been into classical, I've been into jazz, you know what I mean? I really,
My eyebrows shut up for metal, but okay.
But that's what I'm saying, that's me. I've never, limited myself in that sense, and it opens you up, because look at a genre like metal, yeah, especially back in the day, when you saw someone who's into metal, they'd be dark head tattoos and dark makeup, and then you're looking oh shit, they must be devil worshippers. But in essence, once you opened up your mind and you actually speak to these people, and being a producer, I've been lucky enough to work with different types of people. It's whoa, these are fucking all interesting people in their own way. Do you know what I mean? How they choose to show themselves on the outside is not really a true reflection of who they are, and in that sense. So yeah, that's been good for me, though.
No, I think another dimension of it is actually you can choose what you represent, right? And I think, well, for me, it's easy sometimes, because when I land in, even before I was doing music related work, if I land in a new place, if I land in Lagos or whatever, I'm representing certain things, and it may not be what you think I need to represent, right? Especially when it comes to work. I did a lot of work for a philanthropic organization, right? So I was there on the ground doing a different set of work when I was in Maputo or any of these other places. And that's what I would represent in the room. And anything else that you want to assume about me, I can be quite closed about it. No, I don't want to go there. That's not about, that. And so it doesn't even weigh down on me. Yeah. That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it just means that when you're going and you're representing a specific thing about that business, it doesn't have to be a color thing or this thing or whatever. You just there. And like you said, you have the not authority, the ability to not get into those things if you don't want to. Do you know what I mean? Because you're there for a specific purpose. Okay. One more thing that I want to actually get into,
Yes.
This is a little bit, no, it's not contentious actually. It's just something, one of my pet peeves, which I've become okay with over the years. But I remember growing up, I don't even remember Stan, me and him when I was about 16, 17, we had a rap group. And Remember Stanley? Anyway.
Wait, he sounds familiar. You're gonna have to show me a picture of him to really.
Yeah. So we had a rap group, and we were like trying to be very like pro-colored, pro-bushy, whatever, and like we were really on about rapping with our raw colored South African accents and stuff. And this was like, 96, 95, 96, 97. So there was no one, other than maybe Brasa Fanikap or like, what I'm saying, those people doing it. And like I really used to like not hate, but like we'd go in the cypher, we'd go to like Le Club, or we'd go to like Rippingtons, or we'd go to like, downtown Joburg, Market Theatre, and then we'd be in ciphers and all these kind of things. And then most of the other guys were rapping with American accents. And now I've noticed in South Africa, it's a thing. It's like, it's a pretty much Nasty C, all these guys, your dude over there, aka, it's like, it's a thing. It's like, it's accepted. So I want to know why. Because it seems like it's all over Africa as well. Like, is it because English is not your first language? That's why you kind of, assimilating to America, because that's who we see on TV all the time? Or what? Like, what, how, like youngster CPT is probably the first person that I've seen that's actually really come through. Because back in the day, I remember Tumi was doing it, and I was a big Tumi and the Volume fan. And, but like when I saw youngster, I was like, yo, this cat's actually repping, who he is and where he comes from. So like, what's your opinion on all this? Like, obviously, what's your opinion?
That's a big part of why guys like youngster do have the credibility for what they do. I know it took him a while to build his career as well, but the authenticness of how he presents himself, what he writes about, and how he says it is really who he is in like, day to day. And he represents a lot of other people. And I think that kind of like realness is always appreciated, especially in genres like hip hop. I think it's actually coming under the spotlight again today, what you've just said about, the Americanization of South African hip hop and rap, and how people have or used to put things together, and putting a spotlight on some of those guys that are going big internationally, like Nasty C and so forth. And I think it's creating a space for the rest to maybe come under a bigger spotlight. The other thing you have to think about, Kenny, when it comes to entertainment, we have taken a lot from US TV shows, albums. Our rap icons are Jay-Z, Nas. A lot of rappers still quote those as the greats in the genre, right? So, it happened. We know even from TV, when we're building films in South Africa and series back in the day, that would be the main source of what we were thinking was going to be the most successful. And I think we've had a lot of progress since then. We've had great South African content on TV, these new Netflix shows that are doing really well, and they've been really put in the spotlight, and a lot of people are watching and relating to it. And it's good, world-class entertainment.
Because so I think now, like 15 years ago when I first came here, people wouldn't recognize my accent, but now people actually can kind of pick it up.
Yeah.
But also, like that same thing happened in the UK in the 80s and 90s. They were also rapping with accents, but now they go in proper full UK and it's blowing up, like the grime and all the stuff and the drill and all these things. So why are we taking so long?
It's great to have a record like that, to have like a Skepta and a Wizkid on a record, and that they sound different, they can still blend together, and they made great music together. I think that's the best part. But I think what's going to happen now with South African hip hop, you're going to see a lot more of not the stuff that you took complaining about. I think you're going to see a lot more appetite from people to want to hear stuff that sounds like it really sounds, And when you compare it to something, we've started off this conversation speaking about piano, that is really, there's no one has been copied. Okay. It comes from South Africa, and no one is changing anything. And actually, when I look at the videos of the clubs in, especially like the Amapiano parties or any urban party that seems to feature like a Amapiano DJ, they're copying the moves and everything that comes from here. I see bottles. If they had Savannah, they would have Savannah on the heads as well. But it would be coming from here. And I think this is what we're seeing right now. And I think that's the most exciting part about African artistry right now.
No, I'm really happy about that. And I've seen it like over the years, with people like Beyonce having Pansula dances in her videos early on, and everybody kind of looking to Africa. And I'm really, I mean, obviously with all the kind of Black Lives Matter movements and stuff, people are starting to assimilate and find Africa again, and like looking to Africa for inspiration and stuff, not realizing that it's always come from there anyway. The blues, jazz, all of those things started before it even came over in slave boats and stuff. But it's good to see. And I've made peace with the whole American accent thing. Like when I was younger, I was very like anti everything. I was I was a rebel.
You were a rebel.
Yeah, I still am. I try. I mean, I'm trying to be a grown up as much as possible. I've got kids. I'm married and stuff. It's hard to be a grown up. I mean, when you was forever young and have a youthful approach. And I mean, I work in an industry that's young and youthful as well. So yeah, and I've made peace with the American accent, because to me it's more about the artistry now. And I mean, like I said, I always looked up to guys like Toomey back in the day, because he was the dopest MC. But like I love 340 Mil because of his band, and you know what I mean, that type of shit. Like, I love the way they put things together. And I mean, I was a massive Max Normal fan back in the day, and I mean, I love the Antwoord now and like what they do and shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's all coming full circle, and hopefully I'm gonna be. Some job opportunities and stuff will come up where I'll get to come back to SA and do some stuff. But I mean, not only SA, like because I'm linked with a lot of Africans and people, I see lots of travel, in Africa as well on the horizon.
Good, yeah. It's good to work with a lot of different types of artists. Yeah, I'm sure that's a really cool part about the work that you do.
No doubt. What is your advice or whatever to young people aspiring to I'd say make it in life? Or I mean, obviously for someone who's I regard as successful in the industry that you've created as an entrepreneur, and whether it be music or business, what advice or would you sort of leave with my listeners or viewers? Or and also where people can find you and stuff, if you can give me your socials and that kind of stuff.
Cool. So I think for anybody that's thinking about a career in music, do it. I don't think there's been a better time to be an artist from Africa. There's a lot that you can learn from everything that we've already tried before this from other artists. And I hope that you take that into account. I think for me, that's one of my main lessons for whenever I embark on something, I try not to overthink it. I try not to over-engineer it, but I probably do overstudy it. I try to look at it from different angles and try to get as much information as I can before I do anything. And it's just the way that I am, but it's the reason probably I'm doing what I'm doing now in this space at this level. Does that sound like good advice?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I hope some young people will take that on board, and we can have some future leaders in Africa and around the world as well, doing that thing. And where can we find you? What's your socials and people want to find
just Ninel Lara, Ninel Lara on it's the same everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn.
And 5th Season as well, yeah. I'll put
season.com. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put links and stuff.
5th Season everywhere.
Cool. I'll put links and stuff. Is there anything interesting that people should look out for in future that's coming out from your camp? Or
yes, the minute you start following 5th Season, you'll get a heads up of all the new releases that are coming up. We're actually doing a preview on Friday for a few people here that can come through and see us, and we're just going to play some of the new music that's going to be released over the spring and summer. It's a lot of piano. It's a lot of South African hip hop, not the kind that you were complaining about.
Look, I wasn't complaining. I'm just saying that was.
No. It's going to be Afro pop, Afro soul. It's Afro house. It's just a lot of different talents that we're working with, and we're going to put out some good songs, and hopefully some of it catches on your side of the world in the UK.
It will.
That's always the hope, because that will bring some opportunities through for the artist. It will impact the artist and their family, and hopefully they can all have long careers in music. That's kind of what we're building towards.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ninel. Honestly, I appreciate you making the time and the effort for this. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, no, thank you for being patient. Thank you for making it happen today.
No, it's all good, man. So, people, that is Ninel Lara, and I'm the solarkidd. This has been the Other Side of the Sun podcast. Peace and love.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.